Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Kurt.
And we're with Artsbeat Creative, but before that, we were church planters. And man, church planting is not the easiest task. So shout out to all the church planters out there on the front lines making it happen.
And it takes a lot to make it happen. And we've been there. We went through all of that process, trying to get the logo right and get the website up and then get all the marketing out there to get it launched. I think we learned through the process that more important than the logo and the colors and all the marketing, the billboards and the mailers, and we did all of that, and it worked. It did. But more importantly, is figuring out how to craft your message to your audience.
Right, which makes sense, right? As communicators, as some of us preachers, we take time to prepare a really great message for the weekend. And what we're saying is now that you're gonna be a church planter, like take the time to really prepare your main message. Not just the sermon, but the heart, the story, the depth, the why, to the who, and the value that you're gonna bring to their lives.
You know, as you move into a new community, maybe you came into a new city, you felt called to be there. I think the groundwork that goes into preparing for this plant is so important, because what you need to do, one, you need to figure out who you've been called to reach. Who is it exactly? It can't be everybody. You're not gonna reach your whole city. You're gonna have to figure out who are you called to reach, and why aren't they in church right now?
And I love the quote that the culture will tell us how to reach them.
You've got to exegete the community. At least that's what that's how they talked about it in seminary.
Right, which is fascinating. Honestly, Kirk, your degree is in intercultural communications, right? Missions, and mine is in biblical languages. I know I find a lot of fulfillment in taking that ancient message and translating it into the common language, into today's vernacular. I feel like that's really what we're talking about, but not just the Bible, but your message. You're the church planter, your heart, your story, your name, your message into your city. How do you translate that? But I know that also plays into intercultural communications.
If you want to communicate the gospel, the good news, to someone who's not already in church, there's intercultural communication there. And you need to understand the filters through which they are hearing and understanding and perceiving your message if you are going to communicate effectively with them. And I think that it just ups the ante when you're going to go in and you're going to start a new church in a new city. It just makes it all the more critical that you understand that community as good as you can. You need to understand what are their hopes and fears, which may be different than yours, what keeps them up at night. And if you're going to invite them to a church, then you need to understand what they think about church. You need to understand what their perception and their history is with church, because then you're going to have to convince them that there is something new, there is something good, there is a good news that you are inviting them to, that they know and understand as good news.
And I think that is the foundational work, and it is work. You put, and I just encourage you, do that. Put it pen to paper, type it out, print it out. This is the story of those that you're trying to reach, the value that your new church is going to bring to their lives, that speaks to their hopes and it answers their fears. Here's what it'll do. It'll give a great foundation then for designers to design the logos and the colors and the fonts and the textures, so that then everything that you do, all of your expressions are communicating that same authentic, creative message that is you. Here's what it'll also do. It will help with fundraising. Sometimes, here's the deal, when you sit down with a big giver, somebody who can write big checks, you sometimes only get one opportunity to sit down with them. You don't get two. You don't get to say, oh, those are good questions. Let me go write that down and come back. You had their opportunity then. You had their attention right now. So having that story written, having that articulation of who you are, who you're called to reach, and the message that you're going to bring to them ready, that's what givers will give to. I think it will also help in your leadership, both in your team recruitment, but in your team building. right? And even as a place of recalibration and consistent equilibrium, they can constantly bring people back to what? To the message, to the ministry, to the people you're called to reach.
And I know there's pressure, there's a draw. You want to figure out the name of this church. You want to figure out the logo. You want to start getting marketing rolling, but don't skip this step. It's the foundation. Everything else builds on it. And if you get this right, everything else will flow forward.
I tell you what, we have a team of strategists that would love to connect and at least have a beginning conversation about you, about your story, about your message. So you can click some links here, you can fill out a form and get on the phone for free with one of our strategists to talk about your ministry.